Interim Chief Mize and his staff can start planning and getting those block parties together so we can have them.
It is called National Night Out, but there aren't any joint activities that go on, are there?
There isn't here. I know that in College Station, they do a joint, so it's A&M University, Bryan and College Station. They have theirs that night at the Expo Center, and it usually goes from 5 to 7. I don't know if they do any block parties or not, but I noticed that last year they had that at the Expo Center. They had some big deal to come visit there. And then also the discussion would be, how do you want to move forward with these? Do you want us to look at an off day? I mean, if it's going to keep, my understanding when I look back, I know that TML was, it's always the first week. So, and I don't understand why if Texas already knows it's going to be, TML's always been there, why they haven't chosen to select a different date. But I'd like to hear discussions from council, and this is an opportunity where we can have those discussions and kind of get some direction.
I don't want to drive to San Antonio, leaving here at 8:30, 9 o'clock after running around and different things. And I do want us to be well represented, especially if we receive the award. Are all of us going?
So Bernie's the only one that's not going, and I think everybody in this room.
I'm not going.
Yeah, it's but everybody else in the room's going.
And we're the ones that kind of all go around. I mean, the whole point.
I'd say do it the 18th this year, and I wouldn't make an immediate decision on next year.
Okay.
You know, because the reason that we were doing it in October was because it's so freaking hot in August, right? I mean, y'all are the ones that are out there in the uniforms and but I also understand that that same time is also the Ducks Unlimited thing. We've always dealt with that. That's kept people away. So that's
I don't have any problem with moving it.
You can do it, I think. And then it doesn't really matter.
Right, and we're not, and just staff's not saying don't do it. We're just trying to say, let's talk about a different date so that we can, because the other piece is.
It's all about local, really. Yeah. I don't really care what national does. I don't care what state does.
Well, then it doesn't matter what Bryan College Station does either.
Right, exactly. So it's all about local neighborhoods. So I'd say if y'all are good with 18, that's what I would say for this year.
All right, that was an easy one. So Mize, you'll work with your staff, and Connie, you've got the 18th down, so you'll know. I'll get with Dr. Music and let him know too, because he wants to know what date you signed.
All right, item 4, workshop discussion on Robert Rule of Order and agenda policy, process, and procedures.
Mayor and Council, several weeks ago, we had, I won't pronounce Thomas's last name. Still can't, I still can't pronounce it.
About that.
So Attorney Thomas came and presented to staff, to council, to our boards and commissions on the Robert Rules of Order. And just kind of want to, I told you I'd bring it back for a work session so we can have some conversations about, hey, what do we want to change? Do we want to keep the way we're doing it? What do you want to do? One of the things that I know that when I look at that, we talk about the consent agenda. I notice right now on the consent agenda, we include the minutes, the financials, and the second readings. I think that there are some things that what we consider routine, non-controversial items. What Thomas was talking about, those things ought to be considered in the consent. And looking at it, so for instance, your CPI adjustment related to public services, it does require two readings, but you can still put that on the consent agenda. Doesn't mean that you can't. That just means that you put it on consent twice. Those type items, I know that there are some items. So for instance, if the dangerous dog, we had as a discussion item during a work session, everything that you've asked to be put in that, Carrie's went back and did that. Probably there's no discussion because you've actually already given us input. We've done that unless there's something else, or in case there's a person in the audience that wants to speak. So that might be something that could be put on consent. That's one of the things. Also, I don't know the history behind the public access for the agenda packet. I know that at one time the city manager provided a little bit more detailed summarized that went before your packets. I think the new style here where we have who the agenda item's from, the appropriation amount, the agenda item as it's listed on the agenda, the summary and recommendation, which is basically your staff report. We're getting a little bit more detail of that, and then any attachments provided there is giving you sufficient information that that's out there to make a decision, including staff putting a recommendation on there if there's a recommendation. So with that, unless there's anything that I'm missing here, I think that being transparent and everything, I think it's a great thing that we do is to put our agenda packet on there. I know that me coming here, I did as much research as I could, but I was limited by not being able to access your agendas and not know what's on there. I had to read the minutes, and even the minutes, I couldn't really get a good grasp of some of the conversations. And I hadn't, put it that way, I had no idea about the Taco Bell. Now I could have gone back and watched the video of it, but it was enough going through 3 years worth of minutes. So
All the examples.
sorry.
I had no idea how to bring that, really.
Sorry.
That one.
But I did go back because I knew that Ron Cox had come and done your strategic plan. I knew that I wanted to talk about that when you interviewed me, and so I had to hunt for it. And so then I had to actually go and look at the video and watch the video because there wasn't really anything in the minutes. So with that, and then also Susie provided to me you did an ordinance 90, which I included in the packet, which is basically your city council meeting procedures. And I understand that whatever reason those were put in place back in 2020, trust me, I understand. I've been in local government for 21 years. I know there's reasons why things happen. And so I think every now and then we need to relook at some of these things, tweak them, and maybe there's some changes. I noticed under general rules, we talk about time and place for meetings. Now we're doing the workshops. Probably we need to incorporate that in these procedures that they occur on the second meeting of the month at 4:30 p.m. Also on number 3 under A3 under general rules, we talk about, says the mayor may call a special meeting on the mayor's own motion or on application of 2 council members. However, it doesn't talk about the city manager. And so I think there's some times when you've asked me, hey, we need to do special meetings or we need these meetings. I think that, under a city manager council form of government, I should be included in that, or the city manager should be included in that. We talk about on number 5, meetings may be canceled or recessed to the next business day. We learned that some of those terminology, it might need to be postponed instead of canceled or recessed. Again, I'll refer back to Carrie on some of this language. Under B, under agendas of meetings, number 2, it says the city secretary shall be responsible for preparing the agenda for the council meetings. The mayor may determine which items to include in the agenda, provided that the city secretary shall include any item requested by a council member or the mayor. Council members shall be council members shall submit requests to the secretary at least 5 business days in advance of the meeting. I understand the reasoning behind that, but nowhere in there does it talk about the city manager. So, in history, it's usually under a city manager, council form of government, you have the mayor can request items. City manager, if a city secretary reports directly to the council, a city attorney, or a select number of council members, but it can't be a quorum because the quorum, then you've discussed it and you've involved the quorum. So,
even when you don't have a quorum, you have to report it to the mayor.
correct.
I want to know if that's got a quorum.
Correct. So on that, it should read the mayor, the city manager, the city attorney, 2 council members, or 6 of them. Some of the orders that I think that we need to look at. And then on the at least 5 days, I've been working with staff. One of the things we've been looking at is it is my goal to get to 18 days. The reason is we back it up 18 days because that's when staff is supposed to have their items into agenda E's for me to look at. Again, it's a work in progress, but if we keep 5 days, the idea is to have the agenda package to you. That is my goal. Not many times I'm able to meet that goal yet, but it's something we're trying to work toward, and that gives you more time to look at it. I don't want you to have to spend all weekend looking at it. And if I get it to you during the week, you can either choose to look at it during the week, or you can take bits and pieces, or look at it all on the weekend, or you look at it 30 minutes before the meeting. It's up to you, but at least you've gotten it plenty of time. And so there needs to be somewhere between there to be a happy medium. On the next page, it talks about that a citizen may request inclusion on the agenda by submitting a request in writing to the city secretary at least 6 days in advance of the meeting. The request item may be included on the agenda at the mayor's discretion. Well, my personal opinion, I think you need to take 3 out completely. If you have a resident that wants to put something on the agenda, they can come to you, but there shouldn't be a process put in here because, again, the agenda is the body's agenda. It's not the public's agenda. It's the body's agenda. And with that, if a Connie wants something on the agenda, she has opportunities. She can ask the mayor to place something on there, and then he can do it. Convince 2 other council members to put it on, or come to the city manager and have the city manager do it. So it's similar right now. You have an item that we'll talk about later that has to do with a nonprofit organization that has requested some funding for utility credits. It's an ongoing thing. Didn't see a thing, but based on the procedures we have in place, I put it on the agenda, but really I didn't have the authority to put it on the agenda based on the way it's written. And so I think there needs to be just some tweaks to it, in my opinion. And then we talk about public participation on 3A. It talks about prior to the meeting or during the meeting, prior discussion of a specific matter on the person wishes to comment. So right now you have public comment, and there are times when during the meeting later on after public comment where we have an item and the public wants to speak, you choose to allow participants to come and speak. And whether they fill out the item or not, we ask them to. And I think when Attorney Thomas was talking to us, is that he suggested to push all that up to the front. So that was a discussion I want to have with you. I had got kind of mixed feelings between whether you wanted to change anything or you didn't. And so have some discussion about, you want to keep it the way it is, where you as the body take each individual case, whether you allow them to speak or you want it all done at the very beginning. If you do it all at the beginning, then they're limited to the 3 minutes. for whatever item that they want to talk about, or whether it's a non-agenda item or whether it's an agenda item. Unless you change it to go from 3 to 5. The other thing is you talk about speakers must be limited to 3 minutes. So make sure that you were talking about 3 minutes during public comment, or the 3 minutes during public comment and we're talking during non-public hearing. Those are the couple of things that I saw. I didn't know if you had a chance to look through it. But now that we've had the training and went through that, I wanted to get some feedback from you to feel about anything you want to change, anything at all.
I think it's good, exactly what you're talking about, is adding city manager in there. In regard to the public speaking, I think that if they want to come up in item 3 on the agenda, any public comment, that's fine. Or if it is a specific item on the agenda. But don't do both, one or the other. And then one of the things that I got out of the training is they speak for 3 minutes, but it's not a debate. They speak for 3 minutes, they sit down. If somebody else comes up and speaks for 3 minutes, but they didn't like it, they don't come back up. And then it starts into a back and forth. They should have their 3 minutes.
Make sure that I understood what you said, because I heard 2 different things, actually. So I think the 3 minutes at the beginning, and if it is a public hearing, then they can speak. But if it's an actual agenda item, you said they can speak then as well. I would not.
I said either or. Either they come in, is what I'm saying, in the public comments, if they'd like to come up, do their 3 minutes about item 10. They can do that at the beginning. Then when item 10 comes, they don't come up again and talk for another 3 minutes about item 10. They can choose when they want to do it. But if you give them public comment and item 10, then you've given them 6 minutes.
But you limited to 3 minutes. Getting not have any comment. Because it takes up time.
I get that. I also am very leery of doing that because I want to make sure that the public feels as if though they have representation, which is what we're here for. And so if I haven't had a chance to speak to the public about the agenda item prior to it, now granted, I would prefer to make a few phone calls before the meeting so I at least have a better idea of how other people are feeling about it. But if that's not going to happen, and the only time I get to hear about it is here, and they have 3 minutes, I'm okay with that. But I don't know if I like it all right at the beginning of the meeting, because those notes are going to get really jumbled really quick, especially if we have more than one hot ticket item on the agenda at a time. I think that right now, as we are, that we're still small enough to be open and manageable. I'm not saying it's not going to get haywire every once in a while, but I don't know. I do think it's very important that that the public feels as though we are not ramrodding them through the closet of government. It's a delicate process. We are up here to do business, but that business affects everyone that lives here.
Yeah, and they still have the opportunity to give them 3 minutes. I think that it would, I don't know, I think that what I have seen before is that people, well, I don't know if I should talk now or if I should talk later, and then they don't talk at the beginning and then wait and go, no, I don't need that. I'm glad I didn't say anything. So if we
Well, a lot of the
don't,
times they're waiting to hear our opinions on things before they even want to talk about it because they kind of want to gauge how we are feeling about it, which is why we get phone calls all week, the week before.
Well, and I personally, I wouldn't want to do it in the public comment. I'm just like you
I
said,
would want to do it on the
let
agenda
me
item
hear
as
what's
the
being
talking
said about item 10, and then I'd like to come up and say. But again, I don't feel like you should get the opportunity
Not those.
both places.
No, you shouldn't get those. But I think if you're speaking to an agenda item, that you should be allowed to speak at the agenda item.
Yes,
That's
I do
fine.
too.
And I think that you're, by making the packet available to
I
the
think that'll
public
help a
will help a
lot.
lot, because again, all they're getting is, a page,
The first
limited.
page that we normally would get.
And when you
Doesn't
get that
tell them much.
limited information, they fill in the lines and talk to so-and-so, and they fill in their lines, and then it gets spread out that they don't even know specifically what it is. But if they have all the information that we've got, it may answer a lot of questions before they even come.
Oh, most definitely. Many times would wish that people would
I know it's a lot
ask
to
the
put out
question
there,
instead of just assuming when they know what's going on, and it's like, that's not what's going on at all.
but it's often, I know, loopy. I mean, when a lot with planning and zoning, or also Board of Adjustments, people get this letter, and it's just a little snippet, and they're calling, what's this about? What is it going to do to me? How come this? And
Like, hold on the
if there's more information,
Yeah, no, I don't want that, I don't want it to appear that we are trying to avoid having conversations with the public. So often that this is a very difficult conversation. When it happens during public comment, I always dislike the fact that, and it's probably a good thing, that I'm not allowed to respond. Probably good that I'm not allowed to respond a lot of times.
Well,
Because I need to think
The
about
rules,
it first.
the rules are different for the two things.
Yes, yes.
well, if they
And
do
what we're doing now is working pretty well.
correct me if
There are a
I'm
few-
wrong,
there are
I
a
mean,
few
just
little
like
problems.
what you said, if they come up during public comments and speak about item 10,
It's fine.
can we still not respond to them because they're doing it during public comment, or do we have to wait to respond until we get to that specific item?
Well, at that point, you have, if you're following the agenda, and they say something during public comment that you can respond with, or existing policy, or facts, or putting it on a future agenda, which really doesn't necessarily address their concern. So if they have a comment on something that is on the agenda, if you're going to allow it, they should really just save it until that agenda
Again,
item
yeah.
comes up. But that's within your discretion, you have the way to, you have the ability to set it up either way, as long as they have that new legislation or recent legislation, they have the ability to address the council on something that's on the agenda, so you do have to allow you to get to choose when they're occurring.
I also have a problem from our standpoint, where we have a long agenda with 18 items on it, and somebody comes up there at the beginning of the meeting and wants to talk about item 17, and make some comments on that, and an hour and a half later, we've forgotten what they said, theoretically. So,
Thought behind on my side, when the order of agenda items, I try to get those controversial items at the very first, because generally you might have a pack and we need to do some other business, and so if I get that over with the very first, then they clear out, and now you're able to do other business. So I try to get those at the very first, but it's not always. There are some cities that do the totally opposite. They're supposed to provide public comment, and they put the public comment at the very end.
And I think that's my opinion.
Right.
feelings on that, and
I think that is a form of government that is readily
Correct.
prepared to run over its citizens and do what it is.
I
best
never
for
do
the
that.
citizens
I
what's
agree
going
with
on.
you.
And I have some colorful language about it.
I've been to some meetings of other councils, and where they have the situation where everything is public comments. And I think Brian and College Station both do it. get there and you feel like, okay, we're finished with that, now we can get down to our business and do it all doing. And I don't think that's what we want to do. And like I said, I don't see any reason to change it. I think what we're doing is going pretty well.
I think at some point, we will have grown past the ability to do that in a timely fashion, and I think at that point, we will have to acknowledge the fact that we will be legit. I don't want to be here until 1 a.m.
Well, we're gonna have, every once in a while, we're gonna have some contentious issues.
Right, I'm just saying, as we grow and we exceed the, we'll exceed 10,000, I think, within the next 5 years. So as soon as we've exceeded that and the agenda items grow and all of these, at that point, the wheels become a lot bigger. And so I think acknowledging those things then versus now.
And like I said, this is a work in progress, so it hadn't been looked at in over 2 years, so I think it's a good time to take a look at it. Things happen, the management change, we've had a little bit of time management change, especially with Congress as well. But one of the things I heard earlier, let's make sure we understand. So, you can either talk at it in public comment or the other. But what I heard you is, we got 3 minutes. There's no debate part of it. So they get their 3 minutes and they sit down.
And then it's no getting back
There's
up.
no getting back up to debate it.
So you're keeping that and
Because Bernie, that we have allowed that in the past. So
Well, and then it starts, and then you get two people out here
that are
starting to, and it gets out of control.
And we're gonna get some situations where we talk about the public, but we also have people who are involved in the particular issue. And we're gonna want them up there to answer questions. So where do we fit them in? Okay. If we start getting too strict on this thing, and this is one of the problems I have with this, is codifying some of this stuff. It needs to just be common sense and not be written down as this is these procedures, I think. It's going to vary with the people who are involved. It's going to vary with the mayor. It's going to vary with whoever's sitting in your chair, whoever's sitting in your chair. So we need to look at what needs to be codified. The impetus, if I remember correctly, for writing this in the first place was, and said Taco Bell, where we had a situation that bordered on being out of control. And we tried to write this up to keep that from happening again. And as such, the emphasis in this, and what everybody was looking at, was the control in the 3 minutes and all that. And that's a relatively minor portion of this whole thing. We're sitting here and we're talking about making up the agenda and who does this and who does that. If you read different charters from different places, they all go differently. And how we do it, I think, has to be comfortable for the people involved in the process. If we get too dogmatic about it and start saying, well, this has to be this and this and this and this. If Jason wants it to be 18 days, that's fine. But I mean, but that's within his purview and operating the operations of the city, I think. It's not, why do we have to bind that by an ordinance? Particularly say that this will be out, but that's just one more excuse to failure.
And we could take that out. I've just noticed it, and there are times when I'd like to try to get the packet out to you before 5 days, 6 days, give plenty of time to look at it. The sooner the better. I know a week,
I like the idea of the agenda package going out. What we came from having the paper version of it, we couldn't put that out for everybody. But since it just went out on the website, it doesn't cost us anything extra, I don't think. Put that out, I think. I have sat there on the other side of this and sat there with that agenda and say, what the heck is this? You have no background at all type thing. And now, some of the information may be extraneous, but better more than less in that situation. We don't have anything at this point that would be separated so that we only get it and nobody else gets it. And like somebody said, just want to answer some of the questions. They may false, that's it. That's what we roll with.
Carrie and I work on some minor changes. Anything else?
On the motion beforehand to decide whether or not we even want to discuss it. I really like that. That's just me. But if it's not something we need to discuss, then we don't have to open it with a discussion. We
Just do it.
just do it.
Well, I like the idea of having said, Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve blah, blah, blah. And he takes any room for or any more discussion to it. And if we don't need to discuss it, we don't need to discuss it.
Or that's when you explain why you're not gonna vote for it.
Right.
I like that, but,
As far as the consent agenda is concerned, we didn't, when we started adding things to the consent agenda, second readings and everything, we didn't go to an ordinance or anything. That's just, it was decided, I don't know whether the mayor was in on it or just the city manager, just to add things to it. So we're in the same situation now. If it looks like it's reasonably explainable, by all means, put it in the consent agenda and shorten the process.
Yeah.
And any of us can ask for it to be pulled out at any time. If we need
I think that would help add some more brevity to the situation.
That was about 2 years ago, I think, I was to another city council meeting somewhere else and saw this. And then the conversation. You saw that they had that and years ago. Brad was like, hey, that's great, man.
It helps out a lot.
Well, I think
Good decisions.
Lincoln County government in particular, where they have to vote on all kinds of disbursements and everything, changes the budget like that.
It's still on the agenda, so.
So people can look at it, if everybody's getting everything on the agenda by having that package, they know what it is.
Because we always have the ability to pull, it, right? Tell them to approve.
So we'll go back, and what I'll do is I'll add some wording about us using Robert's rules. And then, so if you choose to do like what Patty said, where you make a motion at the very beginning, that is Robert's rules. You can't follow that. You have a route. So we need to make sure that we want to make sure we're communicating that to the public. That's the way.
How is that gonna work?
I think we're
I mean, the way it's working now is great. It's not, there's nothing wrong with what we do. That was just one of the things that I found to be interesting to save conversation. I mean, it wasn't, if conversations need to be had, I want them to be had. But if there's no conversation needed, then let's go.
Okay.
And I noticed y'all did that after the training.
Yeah.
Y'all did that several times during the meetings following.
Yeah.
When the motion was made, second, and then,
Quick, then.
yeah, it's quick.
Yeah, but that comes down to frustration sometimes, and it comes down to what the subject is. In some cases, and I'm not sure, I can't speak for everybody, but some cases it's, I've already made 3 motions. It looks like I'm gonna try and run the meeting if I make this one. Somebody else, please make the motion.
I don't see
And
it
we
locked
sit here
into
and twiddle our thumbs and wait for, come on, Grant, will you say something?
Connie, would you like to make a comment? Okay. Yes.
On public comment. So public comment comes before the consent. So you would have, the public would have a clear opportunity to make a comment. And then before you make, and then you could pull that item
Right.
to have discussion.
Yeah, I could see the situation where somebody make a comment in the general comments type thing, and we hadn't thought of that type thing, and somebody on the council would then move, when you got to the consent agenda, to pull that from the consent agenda and regard it separately.
And it'll have a separate vote.
Definitely.
That give you enough guidance?
It gives me good, guidance.
Clear as mud.
Clear as mud, and I'll work with Carrie on some of it. Thank you.
Now we come.
Oh, it's not on. Can you flip through it quick? Go to 90.
That's item 5, correct?
Yes,
Just item 5?
yes, sir.
Showing 6, we're gonna do this well. Workshop further discussing the fiscal year 2023 proposed budget.
Mayor and council, as I told you, so Jose was out
Yeah,
on his
man.
cruise. He was
How was your vacation?
he was really good.
So
I
I really thought I was gonna get away with it. But I was never gonna perform. Since I've been disconnected from the public for a whole week, if you got any questions, Mr. Weeks will answer.
So Jose is going to present you the sanitation and street budget real quick. This one right there. One that's faded. Right there.
What does that say? So yeah, if I knew that I had to present this by myself, I probably would have. It would have been easier to tell the captain of the cruise to wait for me that last Monday if I had to do it by myself. But nope. Anyway, so I'm Jose Coronilla, Director of Street and Sanitation, and I'm here to present the budget for the 2022-2023, which on sanitation including the estimated year of $1,397,538. And that's what estimated end of the year. And the proposed for the next year will be 1,379,701. That's for all the expenditures for the year of 2022-2023. And we have one recycled labor on that position. That's the only person that we have on that, one person. Used to have a operator as well, but 5 years ago, we took that down to just one, just so you know. So the major budget items for this is to expand the city cleanup event. We only been having one every year, so we're hoping making another one. Actually, I have to create a date. Probably going to be maybe towards the end of October. Trying to make a fall event. Keep the one on the spring and then make another one on the fall. So the reason why we spend about, what is it, 7,500 on every one. But if we do it only Saturday and Sunday, then we can do two. Because we've been doing it for 4 days in the spring. But normally on Thursdays and Friday, we don't have a lot of people. But I think if we do it just Saturday and Sunday, we should be able to have like a better answer for the customer. So that's kind of what we're proposing to do it twice a year instead of once a year, only Saturday and Sunday. And repair the dump truck. I wish I have a new one, but there was no way to do that. So we actually call, and then the main is the AC, the clutch and transmission. We just kind of put it out there. Hopefully everything works out. Lance and I, we're hoping that we can purchase the dump truck with other ways to do it, but it's not going to be on this budget.
That was one of my supplemental requests, which is not funded. But like I said, again, Jason, I mean, we're working on trying to hopefully replace it. It is a 1999 model. It's really old. It needs to be replaced quickly. But unfortunately, we won't be able to do it on this budget. Maybe in the next budget.
I have a question on that, right on the end of that, and it's probably not for you so much as it is for Jason and Lance.
Yeah.
Can we use the hotel motel funds for Cedar Creek cleanup?
No, sir. So that, it doesn't fall within any of the 8 bullet points that says that we can.
It's historical.
But it's not been designated historical. Yeah, so it's not, you have to have a designation. So that's why we're getting to do the Horlock houses, because it actually has, it's got its own designation. So, but with that Cedar Creek cleanup project, we are looking at maybe helping get some of the prisoners out to help on that project. Bring in the goats. The goats are going to be here, clean out top brush and that part, and then the bulk of it is going to be actually getting it on there. We're going to cut the trees out, pull the trees up, and all those off. So the idea is to try to get it as clean as possible.
So you got any other questions for sanitation? On the streets. Actually total of employees, and like I said, I'm sorry, when I did this, I was going to be in the group and I realized that I'm missing the super operators. My fault. So there's actually 8. That's addition over the crew leader. We actually have 2 heavy equipment operators, and we'll change that for you. We have 2 heavy equipment operators. We used to have a 3, but we changed 1. So Edwin used to be a truck driver. This is interesting, and we forgot to do this. It says the signs are removed. $1,000 for the signs and for the logic break signs, and it's about it's $8,000 for that. It's another $8,000 for regular street signs that we replace.
Don't worry about it.
I guess we call it street lights, and of course the annual maintenance project is concrete sidewalks. Now, like an annual. Yeah, we actually gonna started that a little more this year. We have some requests for some sidewalks that need to be replaced, so I kind of do some measurements. This is, actually I just did the math while ago, for 116, 30 cubic yards is if we do 6 foot wide, which is kind of like what Textile required. If we do only 5, which is what they have over there, it would be like 25 cubic yards. So within that range. And we have pretty much everything else that we have forms, we have everything else.
I just, when I was in Montgomery Sunday, they have those no joke break signs on their city limit signs. Right. Put on other signs, right? We have to put in our own pole.
I can do more requests. I heard about it because one of our Don Booth actually lives over there in Montgomery. He told me that. He actually took a picture of it. So I don't know why, but it's probably what this guy's probably different district.
Different district, probably.
And yeah, they have them on there. I even have a picture on there, but I myself, I never really called and asked. I think Sean Myers is the one that actually called us up. You have to have it on old brick was. But we still planning on doing it ourselves, and like I said, I don't have an issue with that. We do it ourselves. I mean, it's just the breakaway sign. It's not too complicated. It makes sense to look at just drop down sign. And that's mental thoughts.
That equipment. Oh, we got to. Oh, I like to play. I like to get on there. We have actually a truck there. We got it today. Do you have any other questions or comments? If you have any other questions, Mr. Wilson,
Thank you. Thank you. So Mayor and Council, so last Monday, you spent 2.5 hours going through the presentation. So I've not received that much feedback on wanted anything else in there, want any changes. I don't know if you've heard anything from the public, because so I know that myself and Bobby went and visited with Kenny and did a broadcast, kind of updated the public on what some of the major things that are in the budget. Of course, they focus on the tax decrease and that it's really still going to be a tax increase. The 1.5 million for employees and then the new personnel. So they really didn't end some of our CIP projects. They didn't really focus on too much of the other stuff. So is there anything else that you would like to discuss? If you'll remember, I mentioned that one of the items, the Little Rattler Academy, that is not, there's no programmed anything in here. And so my thought process is just if you're okay with adding this as a benefit to the employees based on the proposal, we can make any changes to it that you want to. We would just wing it this year because there's not going to be a lot of people that participate. I think we'll have cost savings somewhere else. We'll be able to provide this service to our employees. And so I'd love to get some feedback about this because this is something that we need to try to start getting with staff about, because school district's going to want to know pretty soon if there's going to be any interest until we can start pushing this out.
I think it's a good benefit myself, and another reason maybe for them to stay in possibly a longer tenure with the city, and let's not have to retrain and all that kind of stuff.
And I will tell you, it will help retain some of our employees, because there are some employees that don't have children that would love to be able to have that opportunity when they do have children. So, and I've heard from a couple of employees that, hey, if I have one more kid, I'm done. I'm going to stay home and watch my kid because I can't afford to take care. So
I guess my only question was, and I had made note of this last time, was that, and it just goes back to a couple of years ago when I was a smoker and I enjoyed going out and taking smoke breaks. And there was a little girl that worked in our office, and she said, I don't smoke. I don't get breaks like y'all do all day.
Well, see, I question
And
that.
so my question was, if you are giving a benefit to people based on the fact that they have children, who is going to complain that doesn't have children?
That was the only question I had, saying,
Right, and so I will tell you, so staff and I, we set through a retention and how to start retaining employees class. So the city manager now, Hutto, gave a good example, because they were like, hey, you treat us unfairly. Well, no employee is treated the same. So Jose's group, they don't have a choice to sit in air conditioning. They don't get that choice. They have to go out. So does Jennifer's group. They don't get to sit in air conditioning. Where Bobby and I and Raina and Lance and Lupe, we get to be in air conditioning. So no employees they're already not being treated the same. So yeah, you're going to have that. But again, we're not doing the full bit. We're saying, hey, just we'll help you out some, and it's not for an ongoing basis. It could be maybe 1 year, 2 years. It could be something for, a one-time help. I'm just saying, I think it's a great
I
opportunity.
completely agree that it is a great way to, especially to retain our female.
Right. And I will tell you, so even the health insurance we do here is not fair. So you pay more for families than you do for the percentages for singles. So you're already paying in for this. That's an extra benefit that they're getting where the single's not. But at some point, a single person has the opportunity to get married and have children, might want the same benefit. It's that same thing about
If you don't have the kids, you don't have that
right.
responsibility.
So Mayor,
You don't even have that.
you for example, you're paying property tax for the school district that you have no child in. I am too. So
Exactly.
so
How
again,
much of a benefit would it be to just make it available to them, but not to pay any money?
it might be a small bit. I don't know. I don't know what they're currently paying.
Is the main problem paying, or is the main problem even finding?
So my understanding is the paying part, because I know that currently there are some employees. I don't have it. There are some employees that currently have theirs at another daycare that is a waiting list, and they shared that they do not want to move to this program because this program is only for 8 months. And what are they going to do?
Permanent.
Right. What are they going to do for the other? And there's a waiting list already. So yes, sir, there is a availability. There's a waiting list at another location here that a lot of the parents like to use, and they might not have that opportunity. Again, we want to be able to keep them here locally, so they are able to be local.
I can't remember, is a benefit to an employee, is there any reimbursement for continuing ed, or if they're working on a degree?
So right now, that's another thing. We haven't had a lot of interest in the tuition. When I met with employees, I asked them about tuition. There's some people that would love to be able to get a college degree, but there's some that it's not high on the priority list. They would love to have one. But yeah, that's something we don't offer. So that's another thing that we could look at, as well as doing tuition reimbursements. Another thing that, that's something that Lupe and I will probably bring into you pretty soon is doing some type of incentive to get a building inspector here. So, whether we have to do a bonus or something to get them here, and you get half of it when you get hired, and then once you're here a year, you get the other half, whatever that is, in order to bring in some, and we might have to do it for animal control at some point. But those are things that we need to think about, is on the benefit side, because pay is just a small portion. It will help a lot for retains, but we want to also look at this as, again, it was something that the school district is providing. I thought, hey, it'd be a great opportunity. We did have some interest, and so wanted to bring it to you.
Well, that's where I was
Right, as long
thinking.
as there's no legal issue with the fact that you're providing something for certain employees that.
But so it is taxable to the employee. The benefit that we do is going to be taxable to the
Well,
employee.
what I'm thinking with the tuition reimbursement, a similar type deal, that would be more of the single, and also, even if they're married that don't have kids, they have the time that they could go to school.
Well, I mean, I've worked with companies before that do tuition reimbursement or education reimbursement, but you have to sign a contract that you're not going to leave that company for a minimum of
Yes, so
however
there-
many
yeah.
years because
Oh,
we're
yeah, they're
investing money in you. So if we're doing that, then I want to make sure that, of course, we're protecting the city.
So
Right.
this would be
Well,
similar.
it's kind of like the police academy. When we send them,
Yeah,
they,
it's a contract.
right.
And we could do something similar with this where, hey, you're locked in or you have to reimburse us for this if you leave within a year. I'm up for any type of, I just need to know whether you're good with us to move forward, and we can start putting some procedures in place and some policies and then bring those back to you to approve. And now, if you're wanting to do a tuition reimbursement, I'm all for adding that to it as well. It's not in here. Again, we can see what we have. We might have to do a budget amendment at some point, but it could be something we could look at and put the language together on what that contract would look like. I'm sure you've worked with it before. somewhere.
Yeah, you bet, absolutely. And to answer your question, there's no legal problem with, I mean, as a person, as an employee moves through different stages of life, they move in and out of different kind of classes, and as long as you're treating them equally within that, the status of, are they married, do they have children, that sort of thing, and you're not differing amongst that group, and you're okay. This is, I don't see any legal issue with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be my only concern because we're living in a society where everyone feels
So really quick, so I can get, so I get some
Your 3 minutes are up.
Yeah. So I get some clarification. So, are you okay with the type proposal for us to put some working together on that type, what's before you here? Okay, all right. Tuition reimbursement is something you want me to put together too?
I think it would be nice. I'd like to see that.
That would be a wonderful addition to the
Okay.
ability to retain
Okay.
people that want to better themselves and in turn better the city knows.
Okay, all right. So any particular dollar amount that we want to start the conversation with?
I don't know what the dollars are looking at it, do y'all?
So
I have
it
no
could be
idea.
per year.
Could you maybe contact some other cities?
We can do that. Okay, all right.
Maybe have that, and
Okay.
just kind of,
Some
that would give us a
comparison.
starting
All
point.
right. And we'll put this on a work session and everything, because again,
Yeah.
it probably won't implement it till December anyway, because fall to your spring session to come in, that way they could start applying if they need to.
Well, we could do something like that too. I mean, you could even look into doing some sort of agreement with one of our local higher education groups that would help provide that in turn.
Correct.
Based
Yeah.
around, yeah.
Yeah, that's something we'll definitely look at.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. All right. Is there anything else in the budget? Yeah, I know. Yeah, so is there anything else that you would like to, because here's the thing, the reason we're having the conversation now is at the next council meeting
We have to approve it.
is your public
Dun,
hearing.
dun, dun.
And I prefer to let's get everything aired out before the public hearing, anything that you want to have any changes to. Because it does take us a while to go back and get all the numbers, and it requires an ordinance that you'll be approving for the first reading at the first meeting in September. So I'd like to have all that ready to go, so that you're basically locked in on what we're doing. And so other than putting together some new policy and procedures for tuition and reimbursement and daycare with the school district, anything else?
Just find money.
Yeah, I really wish we could, so. What? Yeah, money trees for 1-3. All right, Mayor, that's all I have. I just wanted to make sure that you've had an opportunity to let me know any changes that you want to make or make sure you're all good with everything. And then from here out, it's just procedural from here out. Okay. That's it, Mayor.
Adjourn.